Welcome to Dialogue with Deidre. I'm Deidre Malone, the host of this show, and I'm so excited about today's show. I know I say that every time, but today I'm real serious. A good friend of mine, Paula Casey, is going to be the guest on today's show, and we're going to talk about the Tennessee Woman Suffrage Monument. She's the president of the organization. Big project that she's trying to get done and trying to raise a great deal of money to make sure that it happens. We're going to talk about that on Dialogue with Deidre today. And then in the last 30 minutes of the show, Governor Haslam has called for a special session in Nashville next week. I will be there because I think it's important for us to insure Tennesseans. He has a special plan that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to let you know what you can do to try and get our legislators to pass the Insure Tennessee plan. We're going to talk about that as well on Dialogue with Deidre. Of course, you can go to the Dialogue with Deidre Facebook page and post any comments or questions that you may have of Paula or about Insure Tennessee. And even if Paula is not here, I will send her the questions, and then when she responds to me, I'll post them and I'll read them live on our show. So stay tuned. We're going to have a great show today. You're watching Dialogue with Deidre, and we'll be back in a moment.
Hello, friends. I'm concerned about the health of our African American community. According to the American Heart Association, our rates of high blood pressure in the U.S. are among the highest in the world. And diabetes, obesity, high cholesterol, physical inactivity, poor nutrition, and smoking are causing us to suffer and die from stroke at alarming rates. In 3 John 2, the Bible says, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers." Visit powertoendstroke.org and become empowered to take care of your health. You are the power to end stroke.
Wow, Teller Brown is your drugstore, and your drugstore. Hey, we everyone's drugstore. And we're located at 3333 East Chevy Drive, 794-3690. All medical plans. We support supported living, assisted living. We do it all. And guess what? We even have a $4 plan. Hey, call and ask Dr. Brown about that. I gotta go because she's coming with those boots.
The Carter Malone Group is a full-service public relations agency. Celebrating 10 years of being in business, the Carter Malone Group is located in Midtown Memphis and represents clients across the country. No matter what size your business, if you are interested in promoting your product or service and increasing your market share, contact the firm that can help you meet your goals. The Carter Malone Group. Call 901-278-0881 today.
ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Perfect 36 Tennessee Delivers Woman Suffrage book. Paula Casey is an expert on this issue, and this is a great read, by the way. Paula Casey is my guest today. She's the president of the Tennessee Woman Suffrage Monument. And Paula, welcome to Dialogue with Deidre.
Thank you, Deidre. I'm so flattered. I'm really, really pleased that you had me on to talk about this great project.
Let me just say that you have been involved in women's issues a long time, and I know this is a new project for you, but it's a very important one to the state of Tennessee, not just women, but the state of Tennessee. Why don't you tell us about this project?
Well, I have been very involved in disseminating information about the women's suffrage movement for a long time. I helped put together the book, The Perfect 36, and we have the ebook formats and the audio book, which was read by Dr. Sherman, and I speak on this topic. And I had some friends in Nashville and Knoxville who really wanted public art, because public art is forever. Right. And the books are great, and we hope that books will be around 100 years from now. We wanted this history preserved because my mentor, Carolyn Yellen, felt that it was so important that this history be preserved, that people understand how important Tennessee was in the final ratification, but also because the suffragists, and the correct term is suffragists, not suffragette, the suffragists were the British, and they were considered radical, so the Americans wanted to distinguish themselves and called themselves the suffragists. So anyone who advocates suffrage is a suffragist. But they believed that democracy is not a spectator sport, and they wanted to show that women belonged in the Constitution. This was the greatest nonviolent revolution in the history of our country. More than 27 million American women were enfranchised because of Tennessee's vote in 1920. So the best way that we can celebrate this history, and this year is the 95th anniversary.
It's amazing.
2015, 90 years since Tennessee's pivotal vote. But we wanted to have something that would last. When we're all gone, public art will be there forever.
Right. Talk to us about this monument.
It's so exciting. If you look on the back of our Tennessee Delivers Women's Suffrage book, we have a bas-relief that is hanging in the state capitol. And this really came about because former State Senator Steve Cohen really wanted this done. And he put me on the committee, and we had a blind competition back in, I think it was 1997. And Alan LaQuire won the competition. And Alan told me that this is kind of an inside joke, that this woman is rising up out of a sea of disinterested men.
I love it.
And she's sticking it to the Capitol.
I love it.
To remind them that women belong in the Constitution and to be important participants in our government. So Allen was the one who did this statue. Governor Sundquist, who was wonderful, he wore the yellow rose at his inauguration. He had Martha and all the cabinet members, because the yellow rose was the symbol of the pro-suffrage forces. So when we unveiled this, it was the first time in the state that there was any physical representation of what happened. And it was just kind of normal. After it passed, people took it as a way of life. They didn't realize how long it took, what the struggle had been like, that it was nonviolent, that these women, and Carolyn Yellen used to say, these were the greatest politicians the world has ever known because they won the right to vote without having it. So think about it. They had no recourse to the ballot box like we do. They didn't have initiatives, referenda, petitions. They did petition. Susan B. Anthony petitioned the government, but they didn't have the situation like we have today where we can disseminate information rapidly.
We can write our own checks. A lot of them probably
own property, credit cards. The suffragists made it possible. So we wanted to have this physical representation in Nashville, and Allen was the one that we commissioned, and we actually started working on this back in 2011, and here's how it all happened. In Nashville, Governor Madeline Kunin came in, and she wanted to see where the statue was that honored the suffragists, and there's nothing outside the Capitol. Now, if you're in Nashville and you go to the state Capitol, and I grew up in Nashville, but when you're standing there, there's 3 guys up there, and of course there are no women, actual women who live. There are historical figures and fantasy kind of things, but there's nothing that represents what a woman actually did. So this will be the first time that we have something that shows actual women who did something historically significant. And the state architect has been wonderful. Well, Madeline Cunin wanted us to do something. So there are several women in Nashville who wanted this to happen. And in Knoxville, they've had a statue since 2006.
Oh, really?
That represents the 3 grand divisions of the state. And Elizabeth Avery Merriweather from Memphis is there. We made the decision, our board is statewide, 9 members, and we made the decision we wanted to have 5 women who were actually present in 1920 for the ratification. And so Rosetta Miller Perry, who is one of our board members and publishes the Tennessee Tribune, a wonderful newspaper. Everyone run to the store and get a copy. I think they're at Kroger stores. She has this photo of what Alan is actually going to create. The base is going to feature women who are significant in Tennessee's political history. These are women who actually were important in our history. And, of course, our dear departed Lois DeBerry.
That's wonderful.
So wonderful. I call her the late, great Lois DeBerry.
Exactly.
Is going to be featured on here. And I want to give a little bit of trivia. How many statues in the United States are dedicated to black women?
Let me try and guess. Is it less than 5?
Yes.
Really?
4. Rosa Parks is in the U.S. Capitol. Phyllis Wheatley is in Jackson, Mississippi. Sojourner Truth, who most people probably have heard of Sojourner Truth, is in Falmouth, Massachusetts. And there is also something about her in Battle Creek, Michigan, because I was at a Sojourner Truth conference back in the early 90s, and Mary McLeod Bethune is in Washington, D.C.
So just 4.
We need Lois.
Lois DeBerry.
Now, what we're hoping is that on the base of the monument, we will have either bronze or granite plaques with a bas-relief of their face and their political biography on the side. And this will be depending on fundraising.
Right.
But I already know that we are going to have lots of money raised to honor Lois DeBerry because she deserved it, and her history needs to be preserved for future generations.
Well, I just think that because she was probably one of the most long-standing women in the state legislature, and specifically, was she the longest 20
She
plus?
was the longest-serving House member,
Okay.
male or female, at the time of her death in July 2013. She served 40 years.
40 years. And so with that as a backdrop, West Tennessee needs to step up
Right.
and support this monument. That's going to be, in part a tribute to her. I mean, my hope is that, she was such a religious woman that the church community will step up, her sorority,
all of her organizations.
And not just her sorority, Delta Sigma Theta,
Right.
but all of the Greek organizations, specifically and primarily the African American Greeks, should step up and support this.
We actually have a lot of interest, and I have no doubt we will raise the money, and we are hoping to have an unveiling of October this year, 2015. Alan is going to have time to sculpt it. He's dealing with an out-of-state foundry because he told me that there wasn't a foundry in Tennessee that could do this work. So I really was disappointed to hear that. But he knows what he's doing. He's a professional. He did the Athena statue that's in the Parthenon. He did the Musica, the roundabout at Music Row in Nashville. He's a very, very accomplished artist. And, of course, his works are magnificent, and we're excited he wants to do this. And so we will have these 5 women depicted. And inside the Tennessee Tribune, I must show you.
Please show.
This page that has the women who will be on the top. And we have got Ann Dallas Dudley of Nashville, Frankie Pierce of Nashville, then Abby Crawford Milton of Chattanooga, Sue Shelton White of Jackson, Tennessee,
I love it.
Who was the only Tennessee woman put in jail fighting for suffrage. And she was kind of a bridge between the National American Woman Suffrage Association, which was led by Carrie Chapman Catt, and the National Woman's Party. And then we have pictures of our board members and the women that we hope to honor.
I see Beth Harwell is first
Beth
speaker.
is the first female speaker. So we've got Democrat, Republican, white, black. We are truly excited to honor these historically significant women. And Carrie Chapman Catt came to Nashville in 1920 and stayed at the Hermitage Hotel and directed the pro-suffrage forces. So everybody get a copy of the Tennessee Tribune. It's tntribune.com if you want to look at it online. And theperfect36.com.
Where can they purchase this? Yes.
Book.
Yes,
exactly. Now, the Tennessean also had a wonderful column by Beverly Kiel, who is a great writer. And her dad, the late, great Pinckney Kill, wrote for the Nashville Banner. And she wrote a column on January the 8th, which was the day we received unanimous approval from the State Building Commission. We got unanimous approval from the State Capitol Commission back on December 15th of 2014. So she wrote a great column called Women's Suffrage Statue Nearer, and it's in the Tennessean. So go to Tennessean.com and Google, search for Beverly Kill, and you can read her great article. So we're going to get lots of press coverage. We want people to be excited that this monument will be on the bridge over 6th Avenue between the Tennessee Performing Arts Center and the War Memorial Plaza.
Great placement.
Isn't it great? Facing the Capitol and the Hermitage Hotel behind. People will be able to see it from all sides, and we will have a permanent representation of what happened in Tennessee in 1920.
Okay, so Paula, if someone is interested in making a contribution, or if someone is just interested in learning more about the monument, how do they reach out to you?
Okay, www.TN for Tennessee Suffrage Monument, all one word, 10suffragemonument.org. And if you go to our website, you will see there are two opportunities, as they say, for donations. People who want to contribute in honor of the late, great Lois DeBerry can go to www.gofundme.com/Lois DeBerry. And I have that on the 10suffragemonument.org website. And we also have an exclusive society. You're a member. I'm a member. The Perfect 36 Society, which our board members Yvonne Wood and Pat Pierce put together. So 200 women are donating $500 or more. We've had several $1,000 contributions, and these women are helping to provide the seed money so that we can pay Alan a down payment. We're paying for all of our costs associated with building this monument. We are incorporated. We are tax deductible. So we encourage people to either contribute through GoFundMe or through the Perfect 36 Society.
Well, I was just honored to be even asked to be a member of the Perfect 36 Society, and so I'm just honored. And Lois was such a dear friend and a great woman, but all of these women should be honored. So I'm excited to be a part of it and inviting others to join us and be a part of it as well.
Right. It's an opportunity to be included in something that is commemorative and celebratory. There's no downside to this.
No downside.
This is all celebration.
And we're celebrating women who've made a difference in the state of Tennessee, well, across the country,
right?
But in the state of Tennessee, and we should lift them up, and this is a good way to do it.
Well, it's exciting too that we have this opportunity, particularly for Lois, because she was a national figure.
She was
in so many ways. So many organizations, and her death leaves a real void.
It does.
I met Lois in 1977 at the National Women's Conference. I was one of the younger delegates, and it was such a highlight of my life. In fact, Jane Eskin and I were alternate delegates, and we got to go and participate. And I remember watching Lois and just being so impressed with the way she handled herself. She really embodied the spirit of the suffragists, and I feel like that's what we're doing. We're having the actual suffragists on top and then the women on the base who really embody that spirit and what the suffragists were all about, which is women participating in their government.
Exactly. Well, Paula, thank you so much for being on Dialogue with Deidre, and we're going to have you come back as we get closer to October to give our viewers an update on where we are.
Thank you so much.
Anytime, Paula. You're watching Dialogue with Deidre. When we come back, we're going to talk about Insure Tennessee and ways that you can contact your state legislators and get them to vote for this. We'll be back in a moment.
Hello, friends. I'm concerned about the health of our African American community. According to the American Heart Association, our rates of high blood pressure in the U.S. are among the highest in the world. And diabetes, obesity, high cholesterol, physical inactivity, poor nutrition, and smoking are causing us to suffer and die from stroke at alarming rates. In 3 John 2, the Bible says, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers." Visit powertoendstroke.org and become empowered to take care of your health. You are the power to end stroke.
So they say it's a man's world? I don't see anybody's name on it.
While they were doing their thing, we slowly changed ours.
Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
Wow, tell about your drugstore, and your drugstore. Hey, we everyone's drugstore. And we're located at 3333 East Chevy Drive, 794-3690. All medical plans. We support supported living, assisted living. We do it all. And guess what? We even have a $4 plan. Hey, call and ask Dr. Brown about that. I gotta go because she's coming with those boots.
The Carter Malone Group is a full-service public relations agency. Celebrating 10 years of being in business, the Carter Malone Group is located in Midtown Memphis and represents clients across the country. No matter what size your business, if you are interested in promoting your product or service and increasing your market share, contact the firm that can help you meet your goals. The Carter Malone Group. Call 901-278-0881 today.
To Dialogue with Deidre. I'm Deidre Malone, the host of the show, and there's going to be a big week. Next week is going to be a big week. in Nashville for the state legislature. Governor Haslam has called into a special session to deal with the Insure Tennessee plan that he's crafted, he and his administration has crafted. A lot of us believe that it is the right thing to do to pass this piece of legislation because it will ensure that hundreds of thousands of Tennesseans who are working have access to affordable health care. Now, there are some conservatives in the state legislature who want to always throw up the fact that it's associated with the Affordable Care Act, and they always want to call it Obamacare and use that as a negative term. But there are those of us who know what the statistics are, and Tennesseans are in need of health care. I want to share a few key points that if you're watching this show that you can share with other people about the Medicaid expansion special plan that the governor created. And here's some points that you should consider. What Insure Tennessee will do, it will help keep taxes already paid by Tennesseans and hospitals in our own state to address health care needs of Tennesseans. Without Insure Tennessee, about $7.8 billion in taxes. Let me say that one more time. $7.8 billion in taxes from the state of Tennessee will go to provide health care to residents of other states like California, Minnesota, New York, just other states, not Tennessee. Do we really, really want that to happen? I don't think so. $7.8 billion. We want those dollars to stay in Tennessee and to provide health care for Tennesseans. Insure Tennessee will cover an estimated 200,000 Tennesseans without creating any new taxes, without any cost, any new cost to the state budget. Let me say that one more time. Insure Tennessee will cover an estimated 200,000 Tennesseans without creating any new taxes, and it will not add any additional cost to the state budget. More than 400,000 people in the state will be eligible for coverage. Eddie, do me a favor and run, at this point, Brian's story. He's going to tell you why we need Insure Tennessee.
The reason that I came to Church Health was because I found out that I had cancer, colon cancer. At the time, of course, I was freaking out, because I didn't have insurance, and I had a 4-year-old. It's a little selfish, but I think it would have been better, for everybody involved if I'd been covered and didn't have to go and find a way to get my health care. I like to say I'm a cancer dodger, not a cancer survivor. So if this place wasn't here, I would be up to my eyeballs in debt or drowning. It would have been horrible, I'm sure. But I was just lucky. It was just lucky that the place like this existed. And it would have been easier, obviously, if Medicaid had been expanded. I mean, all in all, it's been, a great experience. Other than, cancer. That's not great. If I had to have it, this would have been the way to go about it. If Medicaid expansion would make that happen, universally in Tennessee, maybe it would. I don't know.
Coalition for a Healthy Tennessee and the Tennessee Hospital
last year went to the doctor and had no
Coalition
insurance.
for a Healthier Tennessee is the overall campaign to try and get Tennesseans to see the value in supporting Insure Tennessee. Here are a couple of other things I want to share with you about the governor's plan. Insure Tennessee supports working Tennesseans. 288,000 people in the Insured Tennessee eligible population are members of the workforce, but today earn too much money to qualify for TennCare and do not have access to coverage through their employer. This also helps veterans. About 25,000 Tennessee military veterans who today do not have access to health care insurance will be eligible for Insure Tennessee. In fact, Insure Tennessee reduces the number of uninsured veterans in the state by 25%. It's just amazing. And then it also will help boost the economy. It boosts the economy by generating $1.3 billion in healthcare revenues, which would support 15,000 new full-time jobs and create $909 million in new income for Tennesseans. And it stabilizes the rural hospitals, which are cornerstones of those communities. And it often is the only location where people in those rural communities can go to get life-saving care. So just imagine if this doesn't pass. We've been reading about hospitals in our rural areas closing because they're not able to get the revenue in that they need to stay open, and Insure Tennessee will help in that regard. Let me also say that if this does not pass, it will be devastating for Tennesseans, but most importantly, the working class individuals who don't have access to health care. It will really be devastating for them. And it will really hurt our economy because those of us who do have access to health care will pay for those individuals to go to the hospital or to clinics because, you know, they won't be able to pay for it. So what can you do as Joe Blow citizen who's out there and you want this to pass? Specifically, those of you who live in districts that kind of lean conservative, those of you who live in rural areas of Tennessee, you can join us in Nashville on February the 3rd, where we're going up there to lobby to try and make sure that our legislators pass this piece of legislation. You can invite your friends, your co-workers, if you own a business, your employees, the vendors that you work with, to attend the Day on the Hill on next Tuesday. And commit to bringing people with you to Nashville to actually lobby our state legislators. Then you can write letters to your local newspapers, write letters to the editor, talking about why Insure Tennessee, Tennessee's version of the Medicaid expansion process is beneficial to Tennessee. Write letters to the editor, call radio stations and talk about why it's important for this piece of legislation to pass. And then last but not least, those of you who love social media, what you can do is go figure out, and I'm going to give you a website that you can go to figure out some just general information about it, the Insure Tennessee plan, but also to figure out who your state legislators are. And what you're going to want to do is call their offices and tell them why you're supporting Governor Haslam's Insure Tennessee plan. And you need to do that in the next 7 days. Start today making those phone calls, writing those letters to those state legislators, and calling those radio stations so more people can hear you talk about why this needs to pass. So the website address is InsureTennesseeNow.com. Insure, INSURE, Tennessee, and now.com. Go and check out that website and find out what's going on with the Insure Tennessee program. I also want you to hear another story about someone who truly believes that Insure Tennessee is important, and I think you're going to hear from Charles at this time.
I recently, last year, went to the doctor and had no insurance and had to pay out of pocket, and it was incredibly price restrictive for me. Insurance made available would have saved me a lot of money, and it's tough to take care of your regular bills and then be behind on something like your health bills also. Having to pay for all medical expenses out of pocket is really taxing on our family. insurance is not available for us. And so every time we go to the doctor, whether it's my wife or my children, it's an out-of-pocket expense. And of course, prescription medication, follow-up visits, all that is extremely taxing for us. Medicaid expenditure would help me a tremendous amount. I recently, last year, went to the doctor and had no insurance and had to pay out of pocket, and it was incredibly price restrictive for me. Insurance made available would have saved me a lot of money, and you know, it's tough to take care of your regular bills and then be behind on something like your health bills also. Having to pay for all medical expenses out of pocket is really taxing on our family. Insurance is not available for us, and so every time we go to the doctor, whether it's my wife or my children, it's an out-of-pocket expense. And of course, prescription medication, follow-up visits, all that is extremely taxing for us. Medicaid expenditure would help me a tremendous amount just with peace of mind. Should you get sick or should you have an injury, this would devastate my family. To have insurance would mean everything for us.
I'm an uninsured person, and that's, yeah. Do I want to wear this? Sure, I'll wear it. Thank you. I'm a director of a women and children's shelter. I'm trying to help other people, but it's hard to help other people when I can't get help myself. I've needed health care from physicians, and because I don't collect a check, I fall through the cracks. Health care should be for everyone, regardless whether you collect money or not. We're all human beings. We all deserve to be healed. I'm here to help other people, but how can I do that when I can't help myself because there's no help for me? I don't get a check, so I don't qualify to get insurance. It's the same thing if I was walking around with a blood clot in my system. You know, I could die at any time. Because I don't have health care. That's what I'm dealing with. And that's sad because I'm in need of serious medical attention and I can't get it.
At this point,
they've said it better than me. I mean, they've shared their stories with you, and now you see why there truly is a need for Insure Tennessee. So just to remind you of that website location, it's www.insuretennesseenow.com. Please, this is our call to action. Please reach out to your state legislators and let them know that we want Governor Haslam's plan, Insure Tennessee, to pass. Before we wrap up the show, I just want to remind our viewers that I had Mr. Rabia Haynes on our show. He's got a one-man play that I think the opening night is tomorrow night, If Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were alive today. And as we go into February next week, being Black History Month, it is more than appropriate that we check out If Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were alive today. And he's performing at the Harold Performing Arts Center in Collierville. And his show starts tomorrow night at 8 o'clock on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights at 8 o'clock, and then on Sunday at 3 o'clock. And tickets are sold online, and you can also buy tickets at the door. So my hope is that you'll go out and you'll check out If Dr. Martin Luther King Were Alive Today, the one-man play performed by Mr. Rabia Lewis Haynes. Thank you so much for watching Dialogue with Deidre. I hope you got something out of today's show. We look forward to seeing you right back here on Monday on the M1 network. And thanks again for watching. See you next week.